Your internet and wireless should always have you covered. With Xfinity, you're covered far and wide. Get the best internet experience at home with Xfinity XFi and the best wireless coverage with Xfinity Mobile. To learn more, click, call, or visit a store today. Requires residential postpaid Xfinity internet. Restrictions apply.
The football season is here, and you can track the latest news, odds, and information at betonline.net. And while stadiums won't be full, game action will be loaded. Which players will step up to lead their team? Is there still a home field advantage? Will offense or defense dominate these early weeks of the season? Follow along at betonline.net as the top teams in football begin their journey to Tampa. Available online or your mobile device. Check out the site today. Bring the game home at betonline.net.
This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
I used to think time was my enemy. My future wasn't looking good. So worried about the things I couldn't see. I couldn't see the things I could. I was aging fearfully, worrying my life away, when all along I should have been thankful for every day. Finally made a friend of time. Now you could say that I'm aging gratefully. Aging gratefully.
Broadcasting from the rolling hills of the beautiful Tennessee Valley, from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains, across this amazing nation and spanning the universe, you're listening to Aging Gratefully. I'm your host, gerontologist Holley Kelley, bringing you exceptional guests and novel information to ensure you age great, live full, and embrace each extraordinary day for the incredible gift it is. Welcome, everyone, to the Aging Gratefully Show. We broadcast every Friday on the CTR network at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. Welcome to Aging Gratefully, beautiful listeners around the world. So happy you're tuning in to another Power Hour of Enlightenment. What a show we have lined up for you today. So happy you choose to spend one of your 168 hours a week with us here on the Aging Gratefully Show. There's few things more important than how you spend your time. And, well, of course, the fact that you choose to spend one of your hours each week with us is indicative of your commitment towards aging gratefully and living your best life now. And wow, after today's show, you just won't believe it. I mean, really wow. Like boom, like wowza boom, or more like kaboom. No, I haven't lost my mind here on the other side of the Aging Gratefully mic, because I love words. Loyal listeners, you know this out there. Do you know what kind of word kaboom is? It's an explanation kind of word, representing a loud explosion. Kaboom is like screaming from the highest mountaintop and echoing to all the land beyond, that you've climbed that mountain and reached that peak, and you're sharing it with everyone. What I'm trying to say is, I know, what antics so early in the show? But all that stumbling almost sounds like a word too. Oh, well, never mind. We'll get to that in a minute. But boomer, you know about that one, right? Of course you do. As in baby boomer, obviously. And to refresh your memory and get super specific, Wikipedia defines baby boomers as the demographic cohort following the silent generation, were they? And preceding Generation X. The generation is generally defined as people born from 1946 and 1964 during the post-World War II baby boom. The baby boom has been described variously as a shockwave, that reminds of a big boom, and as the pig in the python. Okay, I could go on and read more, but you get the gist in even that first paragraph. Do you think of yourself as the pig and the python, though? Anyway, I get it. I see what they're aiming for, a big giant mass of extraness coming through a place not big enough to come through, otherwise known as the population bulge, as it moves through life stages. But while I barely missed booming by technical definitions, I don't want to be a bulge or a pig or in a python. Geez, maybe I'm glad I did miss it, but I've never been super fond of the term anyway. Boomer. Interstage left? A new kind of boom-er. That's right, like the wow I spoke of earlier, just add a "ka" in front of it and you'll have it. Now make no mistake about it. When a boomer or anyone even near boomering takes their boomer to the "ka" stage and makes it to a "ka-boomering," they aren't messing around. We often see when companies tout a new and improved version of their product. This is an advertising routine we're all too familiar with. It simply means that the company is putting you, the consumer, on notice that they've created a newer version or made marked improvements to the previous edition. Aha! Boom, bam, and that's what it means to be a kaboomer. Sure, you're a boomer, just with lots of, no, scratch that out, with a kabillion ways you achieve and embrace your best life now philosophies. Kaboomers dedicate themselves to lots of things, like keeping the zing and amazing for amazing, long-lived lives. But it's more than that. They aren't just aiming for longevity, extra years. They're set on a mission to adding life to those years. I like what George Burns said, so I'll make it this week's alphabet soup for the psyche. You can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old. And while we're at it, let's squeeze in our show dedication this week. We've done some modifying of words here today, and in fact, you out there know the logophile I am. So you're used to me making my own dialect here and by now and putting spins on things. So this week, our show dedication is to the word modify. It's a verb, and it means to make partial or minor changes to something, typically so as to improve it or to make it less extreme. But in biological terms, it means to transform a structure or something from its original form, development or evolution. So we modify lots of things here together on this show. Our perspectives, our attitudes, our knowing, our awareness, our aging journey. And today will be no different as we uncover a new way of beingness. Not everyone will be a kaboomer, but everyone can be a kaboomer. If your pain is getting the best of you, kaboomers know how to turn that whining into winning. Worried about accidents, falls, unsteadiness, kaboomers work on building enhanced stability to circumvent them. From clean eating to less stress and restorative sleep, a kaboomer lifestyle is for those who want to hit that centenarian and super centenarian state, thriving with vitality and striving full of purpose, the whole way through, empowered, engaged, relevant, radiant. But don't take my word for it, because it's not my word. It belongs to today's guest and author you're absolutely going to so enjoy. Yep, it's a word, it's a book, and it's the creative work, passion, and mission of David E. Frost. He is a certified master fitness trainer, an NFPT certified master fitness trainer, rowing coach, and award-winning adjunct professor. He founded and leads Well Past 40 LLC to actively promote both wellness and fitness for athletes of all ages and abilities. He specializes in nutrition, endurance, and strength training for people who deal with cancer, MS, PD, CP, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Dave is a nonprofit executive and volunteer for America Rose. Learn more about Dave and his Kaboomer life. I invite you to visit him at www.wellpast40.com. It is with great pleasure to welcome you, David Frost, to the Aging Gratefully Show. We're so happy you're here today.
Well, Holley, thank you. I'm certainly happy to join in. Just a great, anytime we can talk about adding life to your years as well as adding years to your life, it's a good day. Thank
Well,
you.
you have had a lot of life in your years, and you're very welcome. My goodness, you just, in looking at all of the things that you have done, you earned a Bachelor of Science degree from the Naval Academy, a Master of Systems Management degree from the University of Southern California, with a focus on human factors. You gained a postgraduate education at the Naval War College and the National Defense University. You are a national and world champion masters rower. Oh my goodness, that's incredible. Congratulations on that. And that directly aligns with your fitness training. I mean, you're really something. I just so impressed by everything that you've done here.
Well, I have been around a few blocks a few times, Holley, so thank you.
You're very welcome. So this book, I had way too much fun, as you could tell, with your Kaboomer, Thriving and Striving into Your 90s, a beautiful book. And I just want listeners to know that the title of it, Kaboomer, Thriving and Striving into Your 90s. And it's really, I don't know how you did this. Like, there is so much here.
Well, it was a team effort. I had a great group of clients, hundreds of clients who taught me as much as I taught them over the years in personal training. I had some wonderful mentors. I sometimes joke that the second dad in my life was my crew coach at the Naval Academy, Carl Ulrich, that I give a little tribute to at the back of the book. He taught me about life, perseverance, alchemy, teamwork. So even though maybe my name is on the cover, a lot of folks help shape the words. One of the folks, the closing quote is from Henry Ford, and he offers that whether you think you can or think you cannot, you're right. And I think I can is kind of something I'd love to share a little bit about today.
Oh, I love that. I actually said that on last week's show, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. I mean, we are like so aligned here right now, because I want to convey to people that I say all the time, my quote is, your mind is the steering wheel that drives the car of life. What you think simply becomes. And so we will have that conversation, and I would love to dive into that. I like how you actually started the book, and I would say asking or reminding actually about something that I grew up spending a lot of time about. I call it the WIFM, and WIFM, what's in it for me? And I love that you put that in the book.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks. The idea is there's an athlete in every single one of us, whatever our challenges, our physical, our medical conditions are. And yet we are amazing. I don't know Latin. If there were 3 classes I should have taken in high school and college, it would have been comedy. And we can revisit that later, because that's critical to living long and living well. Latin and typing. So that's probably why the book took as long as it did, because of my fat fingers. But Latin, the word corpus, of body, is just an extraordinarily loaded term with thousands and thousands of implications, from long muscle names to conditions like sarcopenia, which yeah, I'm glad it's a nasty sounding word. And if folks knew what that meant, it's loss of flesh. Hopefully they would do that little bit extra that you mentioned to modify, to put the zing in amazing, to do that little bit extra to avoid sarcopenia, which affects too many people. So anyway, Latin being what it is, corpus is it's the what's in it for you, regardless of whether you had great athletes as parents or whether you didn't. A lot of our abilities in life are based on who our parents were. I can't go back and find new parents, although my parents probably would have loved to have found another number 1 son. But let's talk about the other 70 to 80% that we can control. And that's the what's in it for me. No matter your physical status, your medical status, there are simple yet hard things that we know, validated by science and research, we know that we can do to live longer and live better. So that's the WIFM.
Mm-hmm. And what's in it for us is that we, hit the lottery on being able to enjoy life. So it's an easy answer, and it doesn't mean that, it's not without dedication and perseverance, but I just really appreciated that you did that. So what inspired you towards the kaboomer concept and focusing in this particular area?
Well, thank you. There are possibly two driving factors. In 2001, in September, I found myself in London on business with some back pain, which turned out to be leading to spinal fusion surgery. So my own middle-aged journey was kind of abruptly challenged by this rather religious pain that I had shooting down my leg. And I was in London on a Tuesday morning, September 11, 2001, when the world changed. We know we had another change here back in March when a novel virus has pretty much crippled, in some ways, the United States. But in 2001, I was not crippled, but I was not feeling very good about myself. And back to Henry Ford, can I do something about this, or can I throw in the towel? So I decided to do something about it, to learn how to recover, restore my body after rather major invasive surgery. And then my lessons learned, I realized that some other people were kind of interested in what they were, and could I help them perhaps make their own mistakes, don't make the mistakes, or maybe learn from the things I did in a positive way. So timing-wise, my Phoenix moment was in September 2001, when I had my own personal issues, but obviously the world had a lot of personal issues, or not personal, community issues, global issues, and we just had to figure out what to do with them. So that was it. That was kind of the genesis, 2001, a little bit of personal and a lot of global stuff going on that I thought maybe I could do my own little part to make the world a better place.
Well, and I did read about that story in the book, and it was amazing.
It was extraordinary to have people in public houses in London crying on my shoulder to say how sorry they were for Americans. And it was more than America. It was a global issue, wasn't it? So
Absolutely.
there is a tie into a public house for sure.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad that you used your situation to help so many others, because recovery can be challenging. And you found yourself there, and after your surgery, and you said, I want to improve, because some people get so in a place afterwards because it feels like such a tall mountain to climb. They just don't know. They can get really down in despair about that. So I'm sure you were a beacon of hope for so many people.
Well, we hope so. I was blessed enough to be able to have help, but also to take a little bit of that initiative to that extraness that you mentioned in your lead-in, to do that little bit extra. I didn't want to stay ordinary. I wanted to do something extra. My kind of get off the stage thought is, what would my epitaph say, hopefully many years down the road, but what would my epitaph say, hopefully for a life well lived? And I joke about, I look at what Shakespeare said, I look at what Rodney Dangerfield said, I like what George Carlin said. Gee, he was here a couple minutes ago. So if people think of me when I'm, dead and rotten, if they think of me as still being around and maybe some words can make a difference in their lives, that's pretty cool.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a really great way to think about it, in that, what would your legacy be? How would it live on, and still continue to provide hope and inspiration, and influence others for generations to come? So tell us about geroprotection and how you can use it to live longer.
Oh, great. And this is an evolving bit of science, and I don't have a lot of initials after my name with medical doctor or research doctor. Yet I do love to find out how a watch works when people ask me what time it is. And what we find out is there's some extraordinary things, generally from the ground, meaning plants and nuts, that can really make a difference in how this amazing corpus of yours and mine operates in more of a tuned up fashion. Can we make our gut function better? Can we keep the garden wall around our gut keep from leaking, leading to inflammation? Can we perhaps enjoy a glass of red wine that has its own polyphenols with fancy names like resveratrol, which can let you relax a little bit, but also help you live longer, as these scientists are showing. So geroprotection, gero is certainly near and dear to your heart from a professional standpoint. I like the term protection as well, one of those compound words that just says, if we are able to, and sometimes it is a little more costly to maybe go to an organic food store or spend a little bit extra time shopping for things that, are kind of farm to table instead of processed or whatnot, that we might have some, what I call vitamin P generally for plants, although it can come from trees too, or fungi as well. There's some important fungi that can help fight cancer. But we're learning that the body of knowledge about geroprotection is growing. And for the folks in my demographic who may have the financial wherewithal to shop at a store that does offer natural products, they may well indeed, according to science, or you could say according to the Bible, the types of salts that are in the Bible or the types of wine that are spoken of in the Bible. I don't really think Moses lived to be 800 years old in the Old Testament, but there some of these old yet new ideas suggest that we can, with a prudent, clean eating, protect ourselves and hopefully live longer. It is said, now this isn't my study, it is said that 20% of all cancers are self-inflicted, diet and lifestyle. So geroprotection is more on the diet side, although we certainly shouldn't forget about lifestyle. It is important what zip codes we live in. Are we in a smoggy urban area, or are we out where the air is fresh and clean? But geroprotection, what we put in our mouths is a lot of our success in aging gratefully. And I hope that folks, if they have the financial wherewithal to maybe shop at I don't want to mention any store names, but if they're able to invest a little time, and invest might be a key word, because we are talking about an investment and hopefully a return on investment that's measured in both years, orbits around the sun, and the quality of those orbits, as you mentioned. So geroprotection is a loaded word, but it's one that is really fascinating, and I would certainly encourage anyone that has the interest to take a look at the types of potential life extenders that are natural, or in some cases, I'll mention one which is well documented, that metformin, which can be for adult diabetes treatment, can also be a geroprotector because of its gentle manipulation of the amazing chemical systems that make our bodies hum. So in that case, metformin, I believe, is related to leanness. Generally, human organisms, like most other organisms, live longer and live better if they don't carry extra poundage around with them. So metformin is an example of a drug which is a geroprotector in the research. But there are many, many plants, noble grapes and good red wine, and others that do help us. Hopefully, I'm betting on it that I can live longer and live better if I eat clean. So there's a rather long answer to geroprotection, Holley.
Yes, and it's amazing when we, start looking at the ingredients that we're actually consuming, and much of it unbeknownst to us, much of it just not, taking that extra measure to make the choice and the decision to be mindful. It is unbelievable what is in our food. You know this, but it's just really surprising. I like how you said garden wall around your gut lining. I mean, that's so great that all of the different things that we can do. And so aside from this isn't unilateral approach. You look at so many other things. Something that most people generally are not aware of is that, of course, we know that as we grow older, the incidence of falling could be, something more predisposed to. But I don't think most people are aware of the fact that most falls are preventable. And you really focus on this area because it's something that we fear as we grow older, because one fall can change everything. I've seen so many people who they were doing fine, and it was that fall that literally led to the decline of everything else. And so, talk to listeners, if you will, about how you're even thinking ahead about preparing your body for things like fall prevention.
Yes, and the chapter title in Kaboomer calls stability or anti-falling your accident insurance. And we, because boomers and most adults are concerned about their fiscal with an F-I-S-C-A-L portfolio, we thought that maybe a physical 401k or bank portfolio might get people to resonate and think about things like accident insurance. Hopefully your investments are secured and insured. And that's the stability part to avoid falling that you led in with. Starting with our great toes, we as adults, Medicare age folks like me, Gen Xers and others, tend to stumble or catch our toes on a curb or something, a rug, as often as little ones do. The little ones, here's another big word, proprioception. They have the spatial recognition and the responses to avoid face planting, breaking a wrist, a knee, or a hip. And the hip falls are costly and often deadly. The statistics of falling leading to broken bones, emergency room visits and surgeries and not coming out of it are really alarming. So stability is a huge, it's so important yet so taken for granted that I really wanted to highlight. It's the simple yet hard things to think about how you get up from a chair. Do you think about leading with your other foot? If you're handed, I'm a lefty, I'm a wrong-hander. So lots of times I would lead, my left side tends to be more dominant. So I try to spend more time using my right side to try to become more bilateral in case I faced a life situation that might lead to something like a fall. So I encourage folks to not get, habits are great, particularly when they're positive, but one of the habits I would love to have people break is always doing the same thing. One of the greatest, most athletic people in the world, a gentleman named Odell Beckham Jr., I think he plays for the Cleveland Browns if there is a football season this fall. He insists on doing things with the other hand, brushing his teeth, putting the other leg of his pants on first, and whatever. He says it makes him a better athlete. And that's something to really dwell on. If we do the same ritualistic motions of life, we may have a untimely fall and get hurt or worse. So stability is really important, and it's one of those simple yet hard things. We take it for granted until we fall. Oftentimes when we fall, it leads to bad consequences like you mentioned. But starting with our great toes all the way up to our eyes are so important for stability. There are some longevity benchmarks, which are hugely important for everyone, in my opinion, who is serious about living longer and living better to focus on. One of them relates to stability, and that is when you were a little kid, you would close your eyes, stand on one leg, rub your belly, and pat your head. Most of us at our age, we haven't done that for a very long time. And as soon as we close our eyes, we might be okay on one leg, and we might be okay patting our head or rubbing our belly or doing something. But as soon as you close your eyes, some of your spatial awareness, your proprioception goes away if we don't exercise it regularly. As a mark, someone my age should, on either leg, and again, back to it being bilateral, not always using the same leg, on either my left leg or my right leg, I should stand erect, eyes closed, 20 seconds. And you say, geez, Dave, that sounds really easy. Just try it. Some of you may have it easy. But our spatial awareness, climbing stairs without looking at the stairs, doing things offhanded ways like brushing your teeth with the other hand relate to avoiding falls with those terrible consequences. So how you get up from a chair using the big muscle groups. And by the way, part of the importance of strength is that when you have more skeletal muscle supporting your joints, even if you did happen to fall for whatever reason, hopefully the skeletal muscles would absorb the shock and your connective tissue and joints wouldn't, to avoid those terrible orthopedic outcomes. So stability, accident insurance in your portfolio, about as important as anything can be. And oh, by the way, other than stretching is one of the parts of your portfolio. I kind of call it your flexible investments. It comes quickest, even at our age. Muscles tighten up, we sit too much, we're binging on CNN or Netflix or whatever. If we get up and deliberately increase our range of motion, that comes quickly in a matter of days or a few weeks. Stability comes in a few weeks. If you cannot stand on one leg with your eyes closed now for 20 seconds at my age, in a week or two, you should be able to with practice. You rekindle that proprioception, that spatial awareness to keep you from falling. So stability is often overlooked. It doesn't take long to improve. And I've never heard a medical professional say, don't practice balance.
Yes.
Moody Blues sang about the song, A Question of Balance. And I think it's just a great song for reminding us how important it is with balance and spatial awareness. Hopefully, if you stub your toe, you won't fall. And then if you have maintained your stamina and your strength, hopefully you would avoid serious injuries. So thank you. Long-winded. It's a long chapter for something like, geez, Dave, why'd you spend so many pages talking about accident insurance? Hey, it's your physical portfolio. We want you to avoid falling.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I want to talk about more that's in the book because there is so much here. As soon as we get back from commercial break, what led you to tackling a work this size? I mean, it's really incredible. And so how you decided, hey, I'm going to create this work. So on the other side of break, we'll do that. Today, we're grateful to be with David E. Frost, talking all things adding life to your years, and his book, Kaboomer, Thriving and Striving into Your 90s. You can learn more about him by visiting www.wellpast40.com. And special thanks to you, my awesome aging rebels around the world, tuning in from so many fantastic places. It warms my heart how you embrace life with so much enthusiasm and investment. Works in progress. We are headed in the right direction. And I so appreciate how you have been sharing the show, and the incredible listener is how you, the incredible listener, has made this show awarded the top 15 shows on aging on the entire planet. You should listen and subscribe to. Oh my goodness. Thank you. You rock, you role model. And I am truly grateful for each of you. I'm your host, gerontologist Holley Kelley, and we'll be right back.
Hello, this is Dr. Greg Hammer from Stanford. I'm the author of the book Gain Without Pain. My website is www.greghammermd.com. That's GregHammer MD. And I just enjoyed an hour with Holley Kelley on her show Aging Gratefully. And I can just say that it was a tremendous pleasure having a dialogue with Holley. We're speaking the same language, maybe using different terminology, but I have a great deal of respect for Holley and very much enjoyed the show. So I hope to be back and wish you all well.
The football season is here, and you can track the latest news, odds, and information at betonline.net. And while stadiums won't be full, game action will be loaded. Which players will step up to lead their team? Is there still a home field advantage? Will offense or defense dominate these early weeks of the season? Follow along at betonline.net as the top teams in football begin their journey to Tampa. Available online or your mobile device. Check out the site today. Bring the game home at betonline.net. The football season is here, and you can track the latest news, odds, and information at betonline.net. And while stadiums won't be full, game action will be loaded. Which players will step up to lead their team? Is there still a home field advantage? Will offense or defense dominate these early weeks of the season? Follow along at betonline.net as the top teams in football begin their journey to Tampa. Available online or your mobile device. Check out the site today. Bring the game home at betonline.net.
The Ladder Life Planning Institute is the ultimate guidance for life's inevitable destiny and your path to passionate aging and inspirational advanced care planning. LLPI offers tools that educate, inspire, and enlighten. Live vibrantly, plan thoughtfully, age dynamically. Visit LLPI for business and individual consulting services. Professional and keynote speaking, books, workshops, education, webinars, and resources. LLPI is here to transform your ladder life living today. Visit them at ladderlifeplanninginstitute.com. Live extraordinary, age dynamically. Visit ladderlifeplanninginstitute.com.
Your internet and wireless should always have you covered. With Xfinity, you're covered far and wide. Get the best internet experience at home with Xfinity XFi and the best wireless coverage with Xfinity Mobile. To learn more, click, call, or visit a store today. Requires residential postpay Xfinity internet. Restrictions apply.
The football season is here, and you can track the latest news, odds, and information at betonline.net. And while stadiums won't be full, game action will be loaded. Which players will step up to lead their team? Is there still a home field advantage? Will offense or defense dominate these early weeks of the season? Follow along at betonline.net as the top teams in football begin their journey to Tampa. Available online or your mobile device. Check out the site today. Bring the game home at betonline.net.
Hi, Aging Gratefully listeners. Actor Chris Toomey here, stopping by to remind you that we are not meant for Couch Potataville. You've heard me mention that before. We are older, but not obsolete. Get off that couch, get out, and go do what you love. Be an actor, get into the gym, revisit that thing that excited you as a child, that thing that still sparks in your insides basement. If it still makes you happy, the desire is still there. Just go do it. Anything and everything is better than fermenting on the couch. We just aren't meant for that. We are meant to achieve great things, we're meant to be happy, and we're meant to love all those around us. Live your dreams, share yourself, and the joy of life will surround you. Couch Potataville is not a good place for us to be. Get up, get out, and go do. And now, back to the show with our wonderful host, the awesome gerontologist, Holley Kelley.
Thank you so much, best listeners in the world. And you are. I can say that because I happen to know. So welcome back to Aging Gratefully. I'm your host, gerontologist Holley Kelley, here today with David Emerson Frost. And he's an MFPT certified master fitness trainer, a rowing coach, and an award-winning adjunct professor who founded and leads Well Past 40 LLC to actively promote both wellness and fitness for athletes of all ages and all abilities. I know you out there, my awesome aging rebels, you are all about this topic. So happy to have him with us today. And before we return to the conversation, I just want to remind you that there are so many different ways. I don't know how you're listening today, but you can catch us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, your Android and Apple devices, your Samsung and Amazon Fire Smart TVs. Literally, you can ask Amazon Alexa to queue up the show, but you have to say it just like this, or I can't promise what she'll deliver for you. You have to say, Alexa, play Aging Gratefully with Holley Kelley podcast, and then she'll find the show for you. Thank you so much for those who have left reviews for the shows. Oh my goodness, so heartfelt. Oh, you warm my heart, truly. And I appreciate you taking the time to do that and share the show with others. What a great show today. And I'm loving it with our awesome guest. I would like you to visit him at wellpast40.com. And you can learn more about his life-enhancing work in so many areas, including his groups and one-on-one training sessions for athletes of all ages that add years to your life. So, Dave, you actually have so many different sections in this book, but when did you decide, you know what, I'm going to write a book?
Well, I joke and that might have a vestige of a book in me from a couple names in my family tree. There was a poet named Robert Frost who was a shirt sleeve relative, the road less traveled. He wrote some pretty good epitaphs too. I mentioned an epitaph earlier. Robert Frost said, "If you're predestined to die late, make up your mind to lie in state." So the guy had more humor than a lot of people think the droll poet did. But he's a shirt sleeve relative, but a direct lineage from a guy named Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was quite a man of letters, Harvard pedigree, all that sort of stuff. And Ralph Waldo Emerson, I'm lucky enough to have his last name as my middle name. He talked about the felicities of aging, things that we should be proud of, that we should celebrate. The youth and inexperience that Ronald Reagan joked about when he was debating with, I don't know if it was Mondale or which, maybe it was Dukakis, one of those gents. But Ronald Reagan said it, the other gentleman's youth and inexperience was to be put aside, and age and treachery were to be honored. So at my age, a Medicare age guy hoping to help others live longer and live better, I think age and treachery are fine. There is cheating in the book. I do mention cheating once. I'm a pretty former naval officer. I am pretty good on the ethics and trust department, but we want to cheat death by not being stressed out about life. And the best way to avoid stress, believe it or not, it's often talked about, restorative sleep. People of all ages have trouble in any time with restful sleep, but with times like novel viruses and kids moving back home and election years and all that sort of stuff, spending, in my age, supposedly I've spent 22 years of my life horizontal sleeping. That's a good way to invest time to avoid stress and add years to my life. So back to your question, how did so there's these relatives, Robert Frost and Ralph Waldo Emerson. Don't know if
just a couple famous writers.
That there might have been, but I've been honored to serve as an adjunct professor for working adults for several different universities in the Southern California area. And I often was told that when I gave feedback to my students, my adult learners, that I had a kind of an interesting writing style, and that I ever consider writing. So I thought, I heard it a couple of times and said, well, let's do what a lot of folks do. Let's do weblogs. So I started weblogging years ago. And then I started to think on this journey, my own Phoenix, my Phoenix rising from the ashes back in 2001. I said, well, what if I put together in an almanac-like fashion things that are important to me if I'm going to make it to party past 90. So you mentioned centenarian in your lead-in, Holley, and that's a worthy age, a worthy goal, and it's happening more and more as we get smarter and as we have better health care and things like that. But let's be conservative. Let's talk about partying past 90. And what do we need to do to increase our chances? If I can just bore people with a actuarial statistic, I did check with the Social Security Administration today, and the Social Security Administration says, Dave, you're going to die at age 85. Actuarial statistic, you are likely to die at age 85. Well, that's not uncomfortable, but it's not real comfortable because I think I might do a little better than that. I have some longevity in my family. And I've done a pretty good job taking care of myself when I haven't blown out my back or dropped a kettlebell on my great toe, things like that. But when I do, and I strongly encourage everyone to look up a Dr. Thomas Pearl, P-E-R-L. I believe it's not Pearls. Let me double check here to make sure. Pearls, it is, P-E-R-L-S. About a decade ago, he came up with a very comprehensive lifestyle estimator. What are your chances to live to 100? Are you married? Are you educated? What zip code do you live in? Do you smoke? Do you floss your teeth? Isn't that amazing that flossing your teeth is a longevity
Oh, it's huge
indicator?
though. For heart health and everything else, it's huge.
Really?
Yes.
So Dr. Pearls came up with a living to 100 calculator. I like the answer he gave me. It's a guesstimate, of course, and I could get hit by a Greyhound bus tomorrow. But Dr. Pearl said, Dave, you're blessed. 30%, you've got some longevity in your genes. You don't have too much cancer in your family tree. You don't smoke. You eat red meat one time more a week than you probably should, and you like your coffee. You don't take a microaspirin every day, but you're going to live between 98 and 101 years if you keep doing what you're doing. And I like 98 better than 85 if those extra 13 years are quality years. Last time I checked, I'm going to be dead for a long time, so I'm not in a hurry to meet St. Peter or the guy down in the hot spot. Don't know which way I'm headed, but I'd like those extra 13 laps around the sun to hopefully make a difference and get people to join the movement so they can extend their journeys as well. So I was a college teacher, and people said write. So I've had many coaches tell me that writing is rewriting, so just get busy. Even with your fat fingers, Dave, start writing. Mm-hmm. And that's how what started off as an almanac, kind of a takeoff with great homage to Ben Franklin and Poor Richard's Almanac. It started as an almanac. And in fact, some of the reviews of Kaboomer have said, you really have to take this in small doses. Not that it's droll. Hopefully it's not droll. Hey, it's got a knock-knock joke on page 1 in the intro, which I can share with you.
I love that. Please do. Go ahead. It's cute.
This is a big deal. We are talking about somebody's physical bank account with one thieving item, which is stress. If you let it, the thief is going to rob your bank. But if you think about stamina as your bedrock, if you think about strength as your cornerstone, if you think about stretching as that flexible contribution we mentioned earlier, and please remember stability is your accident insurance. The currency is that clean eating, putting the right things into that 27 feet from your mouth down to the exit department, the sanitation department, so that you get the macro, micro, and absorptive water that you need to live long and live well. And then the capstone is restorative sleep. And then you have a moat around that bank, so hopefully the thief doesn't steal your livelihood because of cortisol. But that physical model is so important. It's interrelated, and there are things we could do in any one of those 7 or more than one of those 7 to live longer and live better. So that's why the book kind of evolved into a rather large paperback, because there's a lot to talk about. We are talking about somebody's return versus risk, reward versus risk for their physical 401k. And we hope it's a good message, even though it's a heavy paperback. So.
Well, I think that it's an easy book to be able to go in and say, oh, I'm, really having problems. I'm good here, but I need to do better in the area of sleep. And you talk about actually lessening pain through strength enhancement. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure would like to. And if I could mention a compound word that has been I didn't look at the versus time, but it has peaked in recent years. Polypharmacy is, we have an extraordinary biopharmaceutical industry internationally, but in our country. And we have an extraordinary medical system. We're blessed that our daughter is a medical doctor. I wasn't smart enough to be one, but she became one. And they are very, very, very good at treating things. I would argue that maybe our system is not so good at preventing things. And maybe we could look to Eastern medicine, and maybe we could look to old-fashioned things to try to take less prescription drugs if we can. Mm-hmm. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a healthcare professional, but I am concerned both for monetary reasons, but also for unintended consequences and side effects of polypharmacy. Do folks really need a painkiller? Have they really tried to manage the feedback? Pain is a useful feedback signal to us. And if there's pain, there's something causing that, cause and effect. And is there some way we could manage with motion, with breathing, with positive thoughts, and with laughing? Laughter is so important to perhaps manage pain so that even if you can't drop a prescription, maybe it's a lower dosage. I just get very, very, very concerned about that term polypharmacy. And I would hope that folks would be very skeptical as a patient seeing a medical professional who is inclined to scribble prescription. So I believe I'm an endurance athlete, so I found out some time ago, never waste a crisis. I found out a few months ago that I've had a rather impressive deviated septum, which bothers my airflow and had more sinus infections and so on. And so never waste a crisis. Why not have the ENTs see if they can fix that? So I'm not going to look like Robert Redford when I'm all done, but hopefully I can breathe better because I need air for my sport, rowing. I'm trying to do it with minimum narcotics to manage pain. I didn't realize how much feedback you get from your nose when it's been chiseled and rearranged. But just a personal story, but would ask folks to just be conscious that you're the customer as a patient, and is it in my best interest to take a drug which may or may not have unintended consequences. So I believe that, and it's yoga, mindful things like breathing are so important. If our special warriors in the Navy SEAL community and the others in the special forces can do what they do, focusing so much on breathing and mindfulness, maybe we can learn more from how they do it, and maybe we can do it ourselves. Lower our heart rate, lower our stress, and manage the little and big stressors in life that do come up. We all have pain, and I'm very lucky that I don't have it as bad as some people. But when I have it, I try to say, can I manage this on my own as a first order, because that's us. That's the amazing corpus. That's our bodies. It does have mechanisms to address pain, and can we tap those first before we go biopharmaceutical?
Yes, and it's interesting because your show airing 9/11, which was a moment for you in 2001 that was a crossroads in the world as well, and also the weekend of Grandparents Day is September 13th, so it will go to podcast. So many grandparents out there that are listening, and there's so many reasons for us to take care of ourselves and to go the extra and do the extra. I'm wondering, the show goes so quickly and we're winding down to the final moments, but I tried my best to define kaboomer going into the show. I want to make sure you leave listeners with a really good understanding of what you mean by that and what you hope to come of it.
Well, you pegged it so well, Holley, when you said extraness. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is only that little bit extra. A kaboomer strives for that little bit extra, not just in one thing, but being aware of things that he or she could do to live longer and live better, to party past 90, to be the last one dancing, whatever the platitude is. And to know that we are learning so much. Dan Butler wrote an extraordinary book, The Blue Zones. And when you mentioned grandparents, I was nodding my head to myself, because folks that live to be 100 have purpose. They're often around family. Society is very important to them, but also important to them is sitting on the ground and getting up from the ground like kids do, being kid-like and being multi-generational. And one last thing, not cleaning your plate. There's one of the blue zones is Okinawa, and the Okinawans have a word which talks about always push yourself away from the table when you're 80% full. So grandparents, even though we were brought up, I know the greatest generation brought me up, always clean your plate. They're starving people in
Oh,
India.
yes,
Apparently,
my goodness, yes.
If you want to live to be 100, smaller portions, and push yourself away before you finish. But isn't that interesting? Spend time on the floor and be kid-like and have purpose if you want to live to be 100.
I love that.
The odds are getting better. They're still a long shot, but grandparents, activities of daily life, in my mind, when we can visit. Our grandkids are in Davis, California, so that's a long drive. But when we can, I want to be able to try to stay up with them for as long as I can. So, yay, grandparents.
Yay, grandparents. We love grandparents. And so I have to say, with a name like David Emerson Frost, Have you ever, that's really a tall order. I mean, I wouldn't even want to be the author of my own epitaph of you. Have you ever even thought about it? How do
I
you,
have,
where do you
and
begin?
well, I go back to humor because humor is so important, Holly, and you certainly have that in your DNA as well. But I looked at some of the epitaphs. I was lucky enough. One of my creative folks that helped me put the almanac together said that she worked with Rodney Dangerfield, who was a real character apparently to work with as a professional. But his epitaph was, "There goes the neighborhood." So I like that one.
Yeah,
Billy Wilder, I like this one. Billy Wilder said, "I'm a writer, but then nobody's perfect." So, I
I
mean,
love that.
Shakespeare, of course, his are wonderful. Leslie Nielsen, don't know why our folks north of the border have so many amazing comedians. Leslie Nielsen's passing, his epitaph said, "Let her rip." So
Yeah,
I joked
yeah.
earlier about George Carlin. Hey, he was here a moment ago. I like to let her rip, and
Hmm.
maybe that'll leave a little bit of a mental image of Coach Dave. So
Yeah, I love that. And that's Coach Dave, Koach, Dave. And so we want to definitely not have the show end without two things. One, inviting people to visit Coach Dave at www.wellpast40.com. And there you'll see just all kinds of things that Dave has there waiting for you. I'd like you to join him and I'd like you to learn more about all that he's doing. And of course, we want to know how you age gratefully.
well, that is certainly a loaded question. But if I could offer a couple things, one is to laugh often. It's quoted and very well documented that 15 minutes of laughing every day is as good as endurance exercise. I say do them both. I mean, to hedge your bets. Get your endurance exercise in to stay alive, but chuckle till you buckle, even if you're not a funny person. Let the pregnant pauses go. You don't have to be a stand-up comedian, but laugh often. It's so powerful as medicine. It's so powerful for reducing stress in our crazy world. So I say laugh often. Don't trust things you hear. I once had a doctor tell me that I was obese because my body mass indicator was high. Well, it just so happens that I'm blessed to have a very high muscle content. My body fat was in the very low teens. So I fired that doctor and I looked up what BMI was, and it was done over a century ago for French and Scottish conscripts. No women at all. So I say throw out BMI and focus on your waist to hip ratio. If
Hmm.
you want to be a pear, not an apple, you want your hips to be smaller, hips to be larger than your waist. Not like Barbie, not like Ken, but just watch out for central obesity tendencies and get your sleep. Even if you do need to resort to an occasional melatonin or a prescription, something to help you sleep, it's a wonderful way to spend 1/3 of your encore years. That's
Wonderful.
what I hope to do.
Yes. Well, we love the example that you're setting for all of us, and we couldn't be more grateful than to have had this hour with you. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Aging Gratefully show. It's been amazing, and I invite people to get your book, Kaboomer, Thriving and Striving into Your 90s, and visit him at wellpast40.com. So thanks again for being with us today.
Holly, what a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You've been listening to Aging Gratefully, and I'm your host, gerontologist Holley Kelley. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed our message, I invite you to subscribe and share it with others. May you remember to never act your age, and that age is just a number. And may you enjoy and embrace the coming week in the spirit of gratitude. Until we meet again, here's to living your best life now.
I used to think time was my enemy. My future wasn't looking good. So worried about the things I couldn't see. I couldn't see the things I could. I was aging fearfully, worrying my life away, when all along I should have been thankful for every day. Finally made a friend of time. gratefully. Aging gratefully.
Your internet and wireless should always have you covered. With Xfinity, you're covered far and wide. Get the best internet experience at home with Xfinity XFi and the best wireless coverage with Xfinity Mobile. To learn more, click, call, or visit a store today. Requires residential postpay Xfinity internet. Restrictions apply.
Advancements in the medical field are giving nurses faster, more effective results than ever before. They should expect the same from their education, too. Kelley University's game-changing FlexPath format allows you to set your own deadlines and leverage your experience to move faster through your program. So the faster you move, the more money you save. When you're ready, we'll be here. Visit capella.edu for a trial course at no cost to you. Kelley University. Don't just learn, learn smarter.